Everybody, welcome to Vikings Report Rewind. I'm your host, Ted Glover, with my usual partners in crime, my co-host from Vikings Report, Drew and Ted, Drew Bunning, the founder, lead blogger, and head numero uno honcho over at the SB Nation Minnesota Vikings website, the Daily Norseman, dailynorseman.com, Christopher Gates, and behind the scenes, just like the wizard from Emerald City, making it all happen, the one and only Ruby Toons Bunning. Welcome. The Vikings close out the regular season with a 29-13 win over the hapless, yet still dastardly Chicago Bears. Vikings finished 13-4, win the division. Drew, your thoughts to kick things off. How are you, buddy?
Chris, what do you think? I want Chris's initial thought.
Dude, that was the single most relaxing thing I have seen all season so far. Wasn't it great?
What about Duke Shelley?
Duke Shelley for governor. My God. What a pickup that was in mid-season whenever we got him. What a great move.
Besides Hawkinson, is there a bigger acquisition than Duke Shelley this year? I mean,
absolutely not.
I don't think so. No.
A hell of a move, hell of a play. I'm pretty stoked. It seemed weird, Ted, watching that game without stressing.
Yeah, and let's go back to Duke Shelley really quick. So, do you guys remember at the very end of training camp, the Vikings released Ihmir Smith-Marsette, and who was the defensive lineman? Somebody refresh my memory really quick.
Armand Watts.
Armand Watts. There you go. And the Bears picked them up, and a lot of Vikings fans thought, "Oh boy, that was kind of dumb." And yet, through it all, the one guy the Vikings got from the Bears, Duke Shelley, helped the Vikings way more than Smith-Marsette or Watts ever did for them.
And another sneaky pickup that Minnesota got from Chicago is Kairos Tonga, who has had a hell of a second half of the season.
He really has.
So basically, we traded Armand Watts and Ihmir Smith-Marsette for Duke Shelley and Kairos Tonga. I think we came out ahead there.
Yeah.
Did anybody happen to check in the fourth quarter on that tackle behind the line of scrimmage? Did Tonga did he kill the running back or not? Is it? That was the best tackle I've seen all year. He crushed that guy.
There were several guys that sort of showed up today for the Vikings backups, and we'll get to that. I mean, look, the Vikings won 29-13 for year one of the Kevin O'Connell regime. Let's look at this. 13-4, win the division. You've got a new GM, you got a new head coach, and now you have a home playoff game. I don't know what more Vikings fans could have asked for back in August. Drew.
That's absolutely correct. I don't think anybody predicted 13-4, but everything you just said, nobody predicted that. I hope they don't have this feeling of they've overachieved at this point and everything else is house money. You don't want to go into the playoffs thinking having that mindset. Because
right.
You kind of work yourself into being done already, but absolutely right, Ted. This has been a great season, and it's hopefully going to get better.
I hope so. Chris, before I get to you, we got some folks in our chat room. Again, welcome to the Vikings Report Rewind post-game show.
Yes.
We're going to give away a prize at the end of the game. All you have to do to be eligible to win the prize is just make a comment in our live chat. Just say hi, whatever it is you want to say. Ruby's going to enter you in our drawing, which we'll do towards the end of the show. She's got this big magical electric wheel of Toons' destiny. Everybody's name will be put on it, and somebody's going to win something. So there we go. All right, Chris, your thoughts on how this year has unfolded so far? Likes, dislikes, whatever.
I mean, I remember back to when the schedule came out and we were doing our predictions or whatever for the schedule, and I think we were usually somewhere around like the 10-7, like 11-6 sort of range for this team. And some of us thought, we might be kind of hitting the good stuff at that point, but I don't think anyone expected 13-4. I mean, yeah, the 4 losses were bad. I don't think anyone's going to dispute that the 4 losses were all kind of ugly, but no, nobody had this team sitting on 13 wins. I think they're over under for most of the really smart gambling people was like 8.5 or something like that. So nobody thought this team was winning 13 games. So this is just about as good as you could have hoped for, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. So let's get into the specifics of the game.
Hey, Ted.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Real quick, should we give a shout out to Ryan Poles for taking back the NFC North?
Yeah, let's do that. Shout out to Ryan Poles. He's going to take back the North and never give it back.
Ends up having the worst record in the league. What a dope.
3-14. I don't even think they got. Well, Texans just took the lead from the Colts. So I think if the Texans
win, Bears get the first pick.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah. If the Texans win, the Bears get the first pick. So
also, I don't know whether to shoot this off today because I don't know if we really earned it with all the backups planned. So I'll let the chat people figure it out. If you want to see my gold gun, let me know.
No, nobody wants to see your golden gun. Stop.
If people want to see the gold gun go off for the victory, I'll do it. Back to you, Ted. Go ahead.
So the first half, the Vikings took their opening drive. Bears punted. I mean, look, when Nathan Peterman starts for your football team, I'm not saying you're signaling that you're tanking, but you're not putting yourself in the best position to win. Now, granted, they should have played Justin Fields. He was hurt, all that kind of stuff. But whatever. Bears go 3 and out. Vikes go 4 plays, 73 yards. Big play there was a big catch and run by KJ Osborne. And by the way, Greg Joseph misses an extra point. 6-0.
Of course he does.
He blew my prediction, Ted. He got to the last game and blew Drew's prediction. He wasn't going to miss another extra point.
He did. He sure did. Did you think that was like worrisome? Like, oh man, it's going to be one of those weird Chicago Soldier Field days or not?
No, the Bears are trash.
Yeah, they were bad. They were so bad.
I think Georgia could beat the Bears.
No.
No, I wasn't worried at that point. I wasn't worried.
So there was that on the second drive. The Vikings, they were driving again. Dalvin Cook fumbled. That's his 4th lost fumble this year. Is that a concern for you, Chris?
It is. I mean, because we've seen this sort of thing happen before with Adrian Peterson in big moments, losing fumbles in the postseason and whatnot. And Cook hasn't had the kind of Dalvin Cook season that we're accustomed to him having anyway. And now if he's going to be losing fumbles on top of it, that's a reason to get worried. And he was hurt again for a little while after the fumble. Although I don't know if he has the same kind of ailment that Xavier Rhodes had every time he got beat, he got hurt. That kind of thing that we saw for years. But that was bad. But yeah, it is something to concern yourself with, I think, at this point.
Drew, does it bother you? That's 4 fumbles. That's almost reaching Adrian Peterson range.
I'm going to say this, and people can start throwing daggers at me. I like Dalvin Cook.
Okay.
But football is about where you are at the season, in the moment. And right now, Mattison's a better running back than Dalvin Cook. He hits the hole better. Yes. He's hungrier. He's tougher. Mm-hmm. He just seems like more electric at the point of attack. I don't know. I'm not saying start him over Cook, but I am saying that he better get some carries in the Giants game because he has earned it. And it just looks different to me. It looks different when he's running it. I know he doesn't have the home run power, the big chunk yard guy, but Dalvin Cook doesn't look good, Ted.
Real quick, again, we got a couple hundred people in our chat room. Welcome to Vikings Report Rewind. Just make a comment, like the page, like the show. Ruby will enter you in for a chance to win a prize at the end of the show. Going back to what you said about Dalvin Cook, when it got down on the goal line, even in the first half, it felt to me like Alexander Mattison was a lot more effective in this game than Dalvin Cook has been on the goal line almost all season, Chris.
He really kind of has. I mean, he had 2 1-yard touchdown runs. I mean, there were a couple runs that he might have gotten stopped short, but Cook really hasn't had a whole lot of success at the goal line this year, as far as I can remember. I'm not sure off the top of my head how many touchdowns he has this season or how far out most of them were, but yeah, he just hasn't been the sort of effective short yardage running back that he's been. So that's another thing to concern ourselves with, I think.
I mean, Cook's a better running back. Cook's a better running back, Ted, but you got to not right now. You got to play who's really shredding now. And maybe they should go 50-50 on the carries next week, or maybe start out, and if Cook is on a tear, just stay with him. But I'm concerned about that right now.
I wouldn't mind to see Alexander Mattison down on the goal line. I mean, when you lead with CJ Ham, you go off the left side of the line with Ezra Cleveland and Christian Darrisaw, your strength on the offensive line right now. With CJ Ham leading as lead blocker, with a guy as angry as Alexander Mattison running the ball, I just think it's a recipe for success, and it's something I think the Vikings should look at more. Dalvin, I don't dislike Dalvin. There's a lot of people saying he's not going to be back, and we'll talk about that later. But I mean, I just think Alexander Mattison was more effective down on the goal line, and I just kind of go back and wonder, well, man, if he's down on the goal line last week at Green Bay, does that maybe get them a touchdown. It probably doesn't change the outcome of the game. I don't know. Just a lot of things that makes me think about with Mattison. But yeah, so the Vikes go up 13-0 again after that, they had like a 12-play drive, I think it was. Went up 13-0, then they kicked a field goal later. And it's 16-6 at halftime. Overall, I kind of thought the first half was a bit sloppy, especially that sequence at the end of the first half, Chris.
Now, the thing at the end of the first half, that probably annoys me more than anything. So you're down there, you got, I think it was 20 seconds left. You know you're out of timeouts. Kirk Cousins has been in the league 10 or 11 years. You know that if you're not throwing that football into the end zone, throw it into like the fourth row of the seats and get out there and get your field goal team lined up. No, they're running some damn fire drill because we check it down for a 0-yard gain. And then because we've got yakety sax playing in the background and whatnot. And, and everyone goes into the locker room thinking the Vikings have 3 more points. And then the officials come out and like, no, never mind. Y'all had 12 guys on the field. We're going to take those 3 points off the board.
Oh,
I don't know what the hell you're doing out there.
Shout out to the great Boots Randolph, real quick, people. Boots Randolph, yakety sax.
Have you ever seen an end of half review that resulted in a penalty flag being thrown? Because I have not, Drew. Have you ever seen that before? Can you recall?
I've seen a lot in my day, Ted. But I've never seen anything
football related.
Here we go. You got a 1st and goal at the 6-yard line with 25 seconds left and 2 timeouts.
57 seconds. 1st and goal at the 6 with 57 seconds left.
You come out of that with no points. That is a big concern going towards the playoff. I wrote a list down of my concerns. Dalvin Cook, inconsistency. What is the deal with our clock management? There's no way you can botch that. No way. You can get no points at the end of that half. What the hell were they doing? They ran Cook up the middle. He gained 2. Then he lost 1. Then it was everything that Chris just said. It's like, how do you come out of that situation 57 seconds inside the 10 with 2 timeouts and get nothing?
Yeah, that was about as poorly an executed 1st and goal situation inside of 2 minutes that I have seen in quite a long time. And I agree that you've got a lot of blame on Kevin O'Connell, I think, just getting too cute with clock management. And that last throw by Kirk to Dalvin Cook for no gain was just inexcusable. Go ahead. What were you going to say something, Drew?
I was going to say inside the 10 was the strong point the first 8 games of the season, his play calling.
Yes.
The last 5 or 6 weeks, guys, it has tailed off inside the 10. And I think that he was taking more chances in the first 8 games by running like a jet sweep at the 2, play action pass to the tight end. He was making these really great calls inside the 10-yard line at the beginning, first half of the season. And then it's just tailed off and he's doing the conservative up the middle thing. And I will also note at another drive when Kirk got that delay of game inside the 10, that's as much on the coach as it is on the quarterback. When that goddamn clock's counting down to 0, you got to call timeout on that.
Yeah,
that's as much on the coach too, but go ahead.
Well, I saw the comments on Twitter that it was Kirk wasn't mad that they had to call it. He was mad that they had to call a timeout, but he was irritated because the referees did not reset the game clock, so they didn't have as much time as he thought they did when they broke the huddle. So I'm not sure what the breakdown was there.
Here's something, the Broncos fired Nathaniel Hackett a couple weeks ago, and they made the announcement. I can't remember the man's name off the top of my head, but the guy that they hired to take over in the interim for Hackett was their clock management coach.
Boots Randolph.
Him too. He's the assistant to the clock management coach. But no, I mean, people are giving the Broncos hell for putting the clock management coach as the head coach, and I'm just thinking to myself, do we have a clock management coach? Should we have a clock? It kind of looks like we probably should have one if we don't. I mean,
what do you guys think of the clock management?
How hard could it do? It was bad.
Today it was bad. Overall, I agree with you. I think it was really good for most of the year. The last, I don't know if it's been the last half, but the last 5-6 weeks for sure, it's gotten more questionable. And then today was just the kind of the capstone to the whole thing. It was bad.
Yeah, and we're going into the playoffs. It's not a time to be ditching the good play calls inside the 10-yard line. You're going to have a lot of that against the Giants, probably.
So the only other thing I want to mention in the first half, the Vikings had a revamped offensive line with Garrett Bradbury still out, Austin Schlottman put on injured reserve, Brian O'Neill put on injured reserve. The Vikings offensive line today to start the game was Christian Darrisaw at left tackle, Ezra Cleveland at left guard, Chris Reed at center, Ed Ingram at right guard, and Oli Udo at right tackle. And I got to say, gentlemen, for the most part, look, I know it's the Bears, and I know they're depleted by injuries, and I know they're not a very good team. But you still want them to at least get a lot of reps and play with confidence and look like they know what they're doing. And I thought for the most part today, especially Reed and Udo, I watched those guys a lot in the first half, and they won a vast majority of their assignments.
They did. The Vikings did not give up any sacks today. Either even with playing Nick Mullins at quarterback for a half, they didn't give up any sacks. I mean, like you said, the Bears are depleted, the Bears are down, whatever. But they got some reps in, and they're going to need those reps come next week with Kayvon Thibodeau and the rest of the crew from New York probably coming to town. And I think there's some speculation that they might get Blake Brandel back next week. I think Kevin O'Connell said he might be good to go for the wild card game, but we'll have to see how that shakes out here.
And I think there's an outside shot that Garrett Bradbury can start next week too, but we'll see. Second half, it was kind of the backup show, and it started off kind of with a banger. I mean, Nick Mullins comes out, 11 plays, 75 yards, capped off by another Alexander Mattison touchdown, I believe, and now it's all of a sudden it's like what, 23-6. Yeah. Yep. I mean, what do you think? What do you think of Nick Mullins, Drew? How you like apples? How do you like them apples?
He had some good plays. He did. He had some good plays. He's he's certainly involved in the game, and he seems like he gives a great effort. He's really like dialed into what's going on. He wants to perform really well. He throws some passes in some really tight areas, though. He probably should have got picked off at the goal line on that one play, but he did. He looked a lot better than the first time he was in there, but he hasn't had a lot of playing time. And I think I'm not really freaking out if something happens. We got to use Mullins. He's not terrible. He's pretty good backup. That's kind of where I am, Chris. How about you?
Mm-hmm. I feel a hell of a lot better with him in there than watching Sean Mannion try to play quarterback for whatever. You know if you got Mannion back there, you're screwed. But Mullins has started games in this league. He's looked competent as a starter in this league, and like you said, you don't have to completely throw in the towel if something happens to Cousins. So right. Yeah, I was pretty impressed with him.
God, so the Vikes go up 26. I don't remember what the score was. 23-6. Yeah, the Bears came in and they scored a touchdown, and it's like 23-13. And then Greg Joseph decided not to miss any more kicks. He hit a couple long field goals down the end. Gets the Vikes to 29. And then Duke Shelley at the end of the game. Duke Shelley has that big interception after the Bears released him. I think he planted the ball right on the 50, it looked like, or he's planting the ball on the ground. What a great! I was pretty happy for the guy, to be quite honest.
Totally. And he's going to be a big part going forward. I have a question about Dantzler. Is he hurt?
Yeah, he activated him today.
Yeah, he wasn't active today.
If he was active, this would be the perfect game to get him some reps as we go forward to the Giants game. But thank God, Duke Shelley, he was happy, dude. He was so happy.
So some other guys that we didn't see a lot of during the season that got some extended playing time today. Kene Nwangwu, Ty Chandler, Jalen Naylor, I thought made some really nice catches. There was one throw. Nick Mullins was standing in the pocket and looked like he took a big hit and hit Jalen Rieger, who had a couple nice catches. I just have a lot more confidence about the offensive depth than I did the last couple years, especially with the quarterback spot, like you guys said with Mullins.
Absolutely, and Naylor, I think, is a guy who needs a bigger role on this team next season. Naylor, we don't even know her.
Go ahead and say it, Chris.
We'll get it out of the way here. Naylor, I only just met her.
I I think
whatever.
we're seeing from Naylor what Keenan McCardle was talking about. Because he looks really confident out there. He looks like a guy that could turn into something. He makes really good catches, and he has a knack for getting open in the zone. So I like him. He looks pretty good. No, great day for Osborne too.
And Naylor's issue in college was never productivity. Is that the guy couldn't stay on the field. He couldn't stay healthy.
Right.
But there was at least one season, I think I remember reading that he led the Big Ten in yards per catch. So he's productive when he's out there. It's just a matter of him, being able to stay healthy and stay on the field. So with what the Vikings might be looking at wide receiver next year, he's probably he's going to have an opportunity to work his way into a bigger role on this offense.
So speaking of the offense, we'll stay with the offense just a little bit more. We'll head on over to the defensive side of the ball. KJ Osborne had 5 catches for 117 yards. He was the leading receiver. Adam Thielen had 2 catches for 8 yards, and he did have the touchdown. It feels to me like KJ Osborne has become wide receiver number 2, and Adam Thielen is now wide receiver 3. Do you feel that, or do you still think Thielen's the second guy?
Yeah, I feel a lot better watching Naylor emerge the last couple of weeks. Because I was worried about the thinness of the core of the wide receiver. And I think he has too. I don't know what you do with Thielen. It's a lot of money next year, and he's obviously lost. He's lost a step. He's more of a possession guy now. Still a good player, great player. And I kind of see that. Osborne means business out there. He just needs. Yeah. I said it about a month ago on our live show. He doesn't get enough chances. He comes through every time he's called on. Osborne. Yeah. He does. Chris?
Oh shoot.
I don't. We need to come back to you. You doing all right there, buddy?
No, I'm fine. That's like I said. That's one of the questions this team's going to have to answer on offense next year. Is what do you do with Adam Thielen? He's due a lot of money. I can't remember the exact figure off the top of my head. He's going to have to. If you're going to keep him, you're going to have to pay him. But I think there's a probably better than average chance that he's not back next year with this team. So.
Yeah, I think so too. But man, we'll hit all that stuff in the offseason. There's going to be a lot. There are a lot of guys like Thielen and Cook and Eric Kendricks who did not play today. There are a lot of dudes. Or Kendricks did play. I'm sorry. A lot of dudes, senior vet guys that are going to be making big time money next year. The Vikings have a lot of decisions to make. On the defensive side of the ball, we talked about. We talked about Duke Shelley, what a great in-season pickup he was. William Kwenku, I cannot pronounce the dude's name. Kwenku looked good. The rookie from Minnesota, Adamayo, I thought had a couple of good plays. Patrick Jones II, I thought made a couple plays. Kyrus Tonga, the guy whose name we've already mentioned. There were some guys that showed out today when given an opportunity in a regular season football game. And look, I know in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. It makes about as much difference as the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl in terms of long-term program continuity. I get it. But I still
was the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl. That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
I still thought it was impressive to see that the Vikings coaching staff recognized that some of these guys needed playing time. I don't know previous staff. I think they would have been kind of stubborn and not done that. I don't know. But when given an opportunity, they were able to make some plays. That was nice to see, I thought.
Yeah, it was. I mean, these are situations where, like you said, you get those guys a few opportunities, and not a lot of opportunities for them during the season. If you're playing a lot of games where, games are close and whatnot. But I mean, this was basically a preseason game for the Vikings, at least for the second half. So this is one of those times where you get guys like that, a few snaps here and there and let them see if they can do a few things. And, it worked for the Vikings today in the second half. They had some guys that, like you said, did do a few impressive things.
Nicholas Roussan here, and we got some comments that says tall odds for Thielen, Cook, and Kendricks to all be back next season. Salary cap isn't a myth. I agree. Right. Anthony Tollison, good friend of the show, says as long as Hunter is back, the rest can go. I don't necessarily disagree with that. That's not necessarily bad. G-Max 72, Cook, Thielen, Pat P, Kendricks, and Bradbury are hopefully gone next season. Nothing personal.
What up, Mac? G-Mac's in the running to win the fantasy football game, Ted.
Yeah, yes, he is. Go ahead, Chris.
And I don't want to be running Patrick Peterson out of here yet. I mean, he's done all right this season.
And same with if they can bring Bradbury back, as much as he's rebounded under this coaching staff, I would not be opposed to that because that's one less roster spot they need to worry about going into the offseason. G-Max 72 says Hunter is trade bait. I don't know about Hunter. I think Dalvin Cook very well could be. Adam Thielen, yeah, maybe. I don't know that you get much. I think you get more in return for Dalvin Cook than you would for Adam Thielen. But that's offseason stuff. We don't need to worry about the offseason yet, gentlemen, because Minnesota Vikings are heading to the playoffs.
And a quick score update. The Fighting David Blouse have just scored on an 80-yard touchdown pass from Blau to AJ Green. And then their kicker shanked the extra point. So the Cardinals currently lead the Niners 6-0.
What the hell? Okay. If the Niners lost that game, we'd be.
We're the two seed.
If the Niners lose, the Vikings are the second seed. That is correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm not getting my hopes up yet.
I'm going to say this just in terms of the guys you just mentioned. I got running back, wide receiver, linebacker, and center is my top 4 selections for the draft next year. And it's because of Cook, Thielen, and maybe Bradbury. We don't know how the back's going to unwind, but they certainly have some moves to make next season. We need to get some of those draft picks back, but there's going to be a big difference on the roster next year, Ted.
All right. Lauren T says, ask who was trading for that Cook contract. That's a very good question. I don't know. There's a lot of people that can.
I mean, look at our running back stable, Ted. It's damn good.
I think it's pretty solid. Yeah. I think, Alexander Mattison is set to be an unrestricted free agent. I don't think the Vikings will pay him a lot to bring him back. I think somebody else will offer him more money. But I like Ty Chandler and Kene Wangwu. I do. I think those guys are going to be good. You get a late round guy, or you sign somebody just kind of a mid guy in free agency, and I think you've got a respectable running back room again. That's just me, though.
I agree.
No, I mean, running back is one of those positions that, like you said, you can use a late round pick on and get a guy that's going to be productive right away. That's just the nature of position, the way the league works now.
And like the running back position has been so devalued. I don't see either Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, the GM, or Kevin O'Connell wanting to put a lot of money into that spot when they can kind of do a running back by committee situation, sort of like they did in LA. O'Connell did, and go from there. I don't see it. I don't see Cook back at next year's cap number, but that's just
Ted. If Cook comes back next year by midseason, I think we're all going to be doing that saying we should have got rid of. We waited 1 year too long.
Yeah,
that's what it feels like to me. He doesn't have that burst at the hole anymore.
That's what she said, and I also agree. So a couple more comments. Bob M says the Vikes only have 4 picks in this year's draft. That's true. A first, a third, a fifth, and a sixth, I believe.
Yeah, you need more than that.
They are going to get a couple of compensatory picks as well for guys they lost.
Yeah, they should get a couple 6-round compensatory picks. And I think Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah is going to be do more wheeling and dealing in this upcoming draft than he did last year, but that's just me. Jay Johnson says Ted, KOC's offense doesn't need a Cook type running back. That's very true. All right. So
hey, real quick, Ted, what's your idea on Hunter? Not to spend a bunch of time on it. Bring him back. Hunter.
Oh yeah. I think I'd like to see both him and Zadarius Smith back, to be honest.
He still has a good jump off the D line. He has a good initial move. Okay.
I don't know what's going on with Zadarius Smith. I mean, he did not travel with the team. He traveled separately to Chicago, was inactive for today. Somebody said he removed all his posts from Instagram. I don't know what that means. He seems very happy with the Vikings. I don't know what's going on with him. I hope he's okay.
Okay.
But anyways, he didn't play today either, but I'm sure he'll be back next week for the playoffs. Speaking of the playoff game, let's look ahead to that a little bit. Unless the Fighting David Blouse, as Christopher so eloquently called them, pull off a major upset, they will be hosting the New York Giants next week. What are your early thoughts on the Giants-Vikings rematch, Chris?
I mean, it's a lot more worrisome without Brian O'Neill at right tackle, particularly with the offensive or the defensive line that the Giants have.
Yes.
Dexter Lawrence is going to be a problem. We didn't have Garrett Bradbury the first time we faced the Giants defensive line. So Bradbury wasn't there. With the issues on the offensive line now, it's a lot more concerning than it might have been the first time these two teams played. But, offensively, I think if they can keep Kirk Cousins upright, the Giants secondary still isn't great or anything like that. So there's going to be plays to be had there. It's just a matter of, slowing down that pass rush with the deficiencies the Vikings are going to have up front now.
Drew?
You have to start the game plan this week working on 3-step drops, wide receiver screens, bubble stuff, fast stuff, because you can't do the 7-step drop with a D line like this, especially if you have a down offensive line with injuries. You can't. We watched the Dallas game. They never adjusted to getting Kirk Cousins out of that 7-step drop, and they kept getting killed. The Giants D-line was owning that game we played in a few weeks ago until we figured out a way to get it done. But I think, I wanted to ask you guys, is it an advantage or a disadvantage to play a team that you just played concerning game planning? I mean, we're not facing a team that we're not familiar with. We'll go over that during the preview the next studio show. But what do you guys think about that? Is it should be able to game plan differently because we just played them 3 weeks ago?
Go ahead, Chris.
I don't think it would be as concerning. If we had played the Giants back in week 2 or week 3, it would be a lot more concerning. But like Drew said, we just played this team a couple weeks ago. I don't think they've been able to play or change that much over the course of the last couple weeks. So we should still have a pretty good idea of who they are, what they're capable of. But yeah, if this would have been somebody that we had seen in week 2 or week 3 and they had an opportunity to change all sorts of things, then yeah, that presents a little more of an issue. But I think the Vikings are going to be able to have a lot of the same game plan. But like you said earlier, Drew, they're going to have to worry about working on quicker plays to kind of mitigate what the Giants do up front.
All right, real quick, we got just over 300 people in the chat room. Thanks so much for watching and joining in. Hit the like button, hit the bell, subscribe to the show if you haven't already. And make a comment in the live chat. That'll make you eligible for the prize we're going to give away at the end of the show.
The Toons' Wheel of Destiny.
The Toons' Wheel of Destiny.
What do you think, Ted? What do you think about that Giants? What's your main take on it?
Real quick score update. The Fighting Brock Purdy's have now pulled ahead of the Fighting David Blau 7-6.
That didn't last long.
What do I think? I think it helps the Vikings, and I think it helps the Vikings that they're going to be at home. It's very tough to beat a team twice in one season. And I kind of thought the Vikings had even a bigger advantage heading into next week. And maybe I was I overestimated that. I thought the return of Irv Smith Jr. might be one of those things that could be a bigger difference in the playoffs than people are letting on or looking at, because I think Irv is a pretty good pass catcher. You put him with TJ Hawkinson, add in Thielen and KJ Osborne and Justin Jefferson, and hey, maybe even Jalen Naylor now, who's played a good couple of games. That I thought this would be a wrinkle that the Giants didn't see the last time that the Vikings might be able to exploit. I'm not sure I believe that now after seeing Irv today. Maybe it was rust. He dropped a pass where I think he could add a big gain on a screen. I don't know. What do you guys think about Irv?
I mean, we've been waiting for almost 4 years now for Irv Smith to make a significant impact on this team. And he missed an entire season last year, and he's missed most of this season. And now he's in the last year of his rookie contract, and he hasn't made the sort of impact we were expecting him to. So, I mean, I don't know how big his impact is going to be, after sitting out for 8 or 9 weeks and now just finally coming back. I mean, theoretically, he would be a boost to the offense, but he just hasn't done a hell of a lot, honestly.
Drew, what are your thoughts on Irv? Do you think he can be a difference maker in the playoffs, or was I just barking up a wrong tree here?
If I had to put a vote one way or the other, I'd say he's not going to be much of a difference, but I don't know. It's kind of up in the air with me. You see, he's a good receiver. I mean, he had the bad case of the drops, but the problem is he hasn't been around all season, and going into the playoffs, you're going to use what's comfortable to you. So I don't know how much of an impact he's going to make in terms of that, because you know what I'm saying? You don't start changing things up drastically game planning wise. I will say this. if the Vikings offensive line could somehow control the line of scrimmage, which they didn't really do against the Giants the first time, if they could do a better job of that and be a little aggressive on offense with the play calling, I think they beat the snot out of the Giants. I do.
Correct me if I'm wrong. In that first meeting, the Vikings jumped out to like a 10 or 13 point lead, didn't they? Can one of you guys look that up?
I'll go up. I'll go ahead and pull it up here.
Thanks. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that. I just seem to recollect the Vikings got an early lead and sort of seemed to be in control. And then as just about every game the Vikings have played this year played out, the Giants caught up and then it just became a nail biter and they needed that 61-yarder by Greg Joseph.
Go ahead, Drew. Sorry.
I was just going to say, it doesn't take a lot of changing, Ted. Remember on that close to the last drive, we had a 3rd and 4, and Mullins threw the wide receiver screen to Naylor, and he got the first down?
Yeah.
That's what they need to do that they don't do when pressure games are on. They would have ran that thing up the middle again. You need to have plays be aggressive. If they're aggressive, control that offensive line of scrimmage, they'll kick the Giants' ass. Go ahead, Chris.
So, the first time these teams played it, the Vikings got out to a 10-0 lead, and then it was 10-7 going into the half. And then the Giants got a couple of field goals in the third quarter to make it 13-10. The second touchdown pass to Hawkinson then made it 17-13. Then it got to be 17-16, 24-16, 24-24 after the Barkley touchdown, and then the Joseph field goal to win it at the end. So they did get out to a 10-point lead, but that went away in about 2 minutes after they got that field goal.
Yeah, that's a Viking box score you could use every week, right there.
that was the script. Change the numbers, but that was pretty much the script every week for every close game the Vikings played. Yeah, that's exactly how it played out every single week. It felt like. So yeah, I kind of thought the Vikings had a chance to take control of that game. Daniel Jones, for all the crap Daniel Jones has taken his first 4 years in the league. I just go back to he's one more example of how much coaching matters in the NFL. Under his previous coaching staff, he looked like ass. Give him Brian Daboll and an offensive-minded staff, and Daniel Jones has blossomed. Look at Jacksonville last year, an absolute tire fire under Urban Meyer. This year under Doug Peterson, they win the division and go to the playoffs. I mean, coaching is so important in the NFL, more so than college, because I've said this, talent just is so even across the board for the most part, with the exception of a few teams. Who do you like in the coaching matchup this coming week? I mean, I just both these guys are in running for coach of the year, I feel.
Sure.
Yeah, they are. I mean, Drew, we touched on it earlier. The clock management for Kevin O'Connell has really gotten kind of suspect over the last few weeks, and they need to correct that. But I do think O'Connell's the better coach. I mean, I think he has better personnel too, but I think he's gotten more out of the personnel he has. Like you said, Daboll has done a really good job with Daniel Jones, but I can't, off the top of my head, I can't name any of the guys that Daniel Jones is throwing to at this point, to be honest with you.
Let me ask you guys this. We're all talking Giants and because that's just who the Vikings probably will face. I just don't see Arizona coming back and beating San Francisco. But let's just hypothetically say that can happen. Drew, would you rather be at home as the 2 seed and play either, let's just say Green Bay, let's assume Green Bay wins. Because if Green Bay wins, they are in. So would you want to be the 2nd seed and face Green Bay, or the 3rd seed and face the Giants at home?
Easy for me, Giants. Look at the quarterback difference.
Yeah.
Yep.
Rodgers can make a difference that Daniel Jones can't.
Chris?
No, I absolutely agree with Drew. I mean, the difference between Aaron Rodgers and Daniel Jones, even though Rodgers is having a down year by his standards, in this case, the 2 or the 3 seed does not make that much of a difference, I don't think.
A couple folks in the chat, Purple Haze wants Green Bay. That's like saying I want Bama, do you?
Yeah. Oh, wait, real quick.
Yeah.
Hey, Purple Haze, you won last week's prize. It went out Thursday, so be looking for that. It took me a few days to get it out because I'm an incredibly busy guy. So Purple Haze, your prize is coming. The Vikings football. So.
Thomas Hendrickson says SKOL from, I believe it's pronounced Tolono, maybe Tolono, Illinois, Tolono.
Yeah.
Riot Gear, Giants easy. Coach Goththorpe, 3 seed versus Giants all the way. How about, so there are a couple scenarios left. So if Green Bay wins, they are in, and they are the 7th seed. Okay. If Detroit wins, Seattle has to lose, and then Detroit would be in. If Detroit and Seattle both win, then Seattle is in.
Wow.
So if the Fighting Blouse beat the Fighting Purdies, the Vikings would be the 2 seed and could face either Detroit, Green Bay, or Seattle.
Sounds like a couple old Western families, the Blouse and the Purdies going at it.
It does.
Like so the Hatfields and McCoys.
So let's do this. We said Green Bay. We've got Detroit as an option and Seattle as an option. Would you be okay at home with the 2 seed versus Detroit or Seattle, Drew?
I would. I would be okay with playing. I think we match up better with the Giants than anybody. I don't know why. I know the Giants are a better team, but the Giants have you can find that flaw in that crack in the foundation with them, and you can run them out.
Okay.
The Lions are sneaky good, dude. The 1 week they could lose by 50 or win by 50. So I mean, you can play whoever you're going to get, but I think I would. Seattle. Probably Seattle. I don't know.
Of all these scenarios, I would like the number 2 seed at home against Seattle. I think that would be the best matchup for the Vikings in the wild card round, but that's just me. Chris, what about you?
No, I agree with that. I mean, I would of all those possible teams we would face if we wound up with the 2 seed, I think Seattle would be the easy choice, and then probably Detroit, and then probably Green Bay. I would rather not see either Detroit or Green Bay, to be honest. But yeah, I think Seattle would be the best option for this team if it were to happen that way.
Yeah, I that's just kind of where I'm at on this as well.
What do you guys see for the game plan next week? What do the Vikings have to do? You guys tell me. What do they have to do? I mean, besides not have turnovers and penalties, and what is the main thing you guys look at for this game? We're playing the Giants. That's what I feel.
Go ahead, Chris.
They need to do a hell of a lot better job of getting after Daniel Jones than they did last time. I can't remember. I think let me see if I still have the box score pulled up from that game yet. Neil Hunter had a couple of sacks, and Tonga and Wanham had a half a sack each. But it didn't seem like we had a lot of pressure on them.
I thought they were well into the 4th quarter before the Vikings even had pressure on Daniel Jones. I remember that being about as easy a game for him in terms of pressure as I can remember seeing.
Yeah,
okay.
I'll have to see when the sacks came during that game. See if I can find here. There was one sack in the first quarter from Hunter that Jones fumbled on with the Giants recovering. Let's see if I can find the next one here.
Right.
His Cousins.
Well, he's looking.
Second,
go ahead.
One in the second quarter, and then I think there was one in the third quarter. So yeah.
So pressure Jones. That's pretty much the main.
That's the big one for me, I think.
What about you, Drew? Are you kind of, is that your big key to the game?
I'm going to give away one of my intangibles for next week. You know what's interesting about this game? Two rookie head coaches. When you're going into a regular season game, it's not like going into a postseason game. It's not. These guys, neither one has played in a postseason game, has coached in a postseason game as a head coach.
The head coach, yeah.
Who is going to be more scared and who is going to be more aggressive? That's who's going to win this game. Between both those guys, I'm telling you, it's that I expect them both to just be like two boxers kind of feeling themselves out the first couple of rounds. But two rookies going at it in their first playoff game. That is interesting to me. So I think it comes down to coaching.
Well, I think it comes down to coaching more than anything. And for me, it's somebody mentioned it here in the Jared P said, don't let Jones effing run on us. And I think that's a big key. I mean, you look at Daniel Jones, I remember him being able to extend several drives the last time they played by using his legs. And I just felt that was a big difference in the game. If the Vikings can do that, and if they can pressure him, I mean, like after the Giants game, it felt like the Vikings, or maybe it was a couple weeks after that the Vikings started. Ed Donatello started bringing up more pressure, dialing up more pressure, trying to get the quarterback uncomfortable. I think, look, if you can make Daniel Jones uncomfortable, assuming it's going to be the Giants, you're going to have a much better chance than just letting him sit back, survey the field, and pick everybody apart. Because just about any quarterback in the NFL could do that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right. I think we're getting close. Ruby, are you ready to spin the Ruby Toonce's SKOL Wheel of Destiny?
Meow, meow.
Oh, there it is.
I love the sound. Give me some sound wheel. Here we go. Lucky winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Steve Schuller, congratulations. You are
Steve Schuller,
our prize winner. I think Steve's a first-time prize winner.
Didn't he play quarterback for the U? Steve Schuller?
I believe that was Steve Fuller.
In between Fuller and Testaverde? I think it was Steve Schuller. Steve, good to have you in here. Under Howard Schnellenberger. He knows what I'm talking about. Congrats,
All right,
Steve. Good job.
Steve, congratulations. Go ahead and email Ruby at VikingsReport@gmail.com. VikingsReport@gmail.com. She'll send you a link to the prize vault. Pick a prize, and she'll get all that set up, and her and Drew will get that mailed out to you.
Yes.
So look, we've been going quite a bit here, boys. We've been going about
45 minutes.
A little over 45 minutes. Yeah. So let's go ahead and Chris, why don't you give me your final thoughts on the day and the season, and we'll start to wrap it up and get out of here.
I mean, it was a pretty good day. The starters got to do some things out there. We didn't suffer any more significant injuries, which was the most important thing for this team this afternoon going into the playoffs. And now we got to kind of sit and wait. I mean, we're all anticipating playing the Giants next week, but we're going to have to see what else happens. And it's been a pretty damn good season, all things considered. Like you said, nobody put this team on 13 wins, and that's where they are right now, and potentially the number 2 seed, although they're likely the number 3 in the NFC playoffs. But yeah, this has been a season that has been a lot of fun so far, and it's gonna continue here next weekend.
Yeah, it is. Drew?
Yeah, echo all those remarks by Chris Gates. That's about perfectly said right there. Hoots Randolph would be proud. I'm going to say hell of a season, hell of a mission so far and a journey, but now's the time they got to step on the gas. They got to change their play calling on both sides of the ball. Basically, Ted, they got to let it rip, because the way they've gone, even though they're 13-4, they got to turn it on in the playoffs. And the way they run the play calling on both sides of the ball has to get more aggressive if you want to get past more than one game. And I think a lot of us are thinking, well, if we get one playoff win, we're in there. But hats off to Kevin O'Connell. I mean, 13-4, everything you mentioned, Ted, at the beginning of the season.
Yep.
I mean, look, we're going to playoff. What did we have last couple of years at this point in the season? We were doing shows going, oh, we suck.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited to go forward. I'm excited to what the Vikings can do. And if they do get more aggressive offensively, we could be the 2007 Giants or maybe the 1980 Raiders when they turned it on to play the Eagles in the championship and the Super Bowl. It's just a matter of what we want to do. We can't be running up the middle every 2 downs inside the 10. You know what I mean by conservative opposed to aggressive.
Yeah, I do.
I think we can go as far as we got the players, we got the coach. Let's do it.
All right. I'm with you guys. If you'd have told me 13-4, third seed minimum, a home playoff game, I'd have taken that in a heartbeat. And this team, if they look, they're capable. I think, Drew, you said it a couple of weeks ago. They're either going to win the Super Bowl or they're going to lose in the divisional round by 40. They are good enough. They are good enough to win the Super Bowl. They are bad enough to get run out of a stadium. And I'm here for it. Whatever happens. I mean, look, they've got a home playoff game. I think they'll get past next week, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. And we'll go from there. This is a good football team. It's got a good coaching staff, and I think it's got a bright future. And for those of you that joined us today, thanks so much for joining us. Drew and I will be back next week. We'll preview the Vikings Giants game. And then Drew, Chris, and I will be back at the conclusion of the wild card round next Saturday for Vikings Report Rewind. We'll get you caught up on the Vikings game. We'll talk about that as well. What do you got, buddy?
Real quick, I know Ollie Udo, he watches the show.
Oh,
that's the first thing he does after the thing. I want to, Ollie, go with the 1970s neck roll, buddy. that folded paper plate. Folded paper plate ain't work. Go back to that neck roll going into the playoffs, dude. It'll give you power. The neck roll. You know what I'm talking about. I want to throw that out there, Dave.
All righty. So look for our Giants playoff preview show on Friday. We'll do the Vikings Report Rewind right after the game next. Well, whenever that is, whenever they announce the schedule, we'll be on right after that. Ruby, thanks so much for running everything behind the scenes. For Drew, for Chris, for Ruby, thanks so much for joining us. Hit that like and subscribe, and we will see you next week. SKOL Vikings 2022 NFC North Division champions.
Great job, Ted Glover. Boom, boom.